You know what kills most people's dreams? It's not lack of ambition, it's the size of the change they think they need to make. You want to get in shape, so you commit to the gym 5 days a week. You last 2 weeks. You want to build a business, so you quit your job and go all in. You burn out in 3 months. You want to master a skill, so you dedicate 3 hours every day. You give up before the first month ends. Every single time, the same pattern. Big goal, big commitment, big failure. And then you blame yourself for lacking discipline. But what if the problem isn't your willpower? What if it's the entire way you've been taught to approach change? There's a Japanese philosophy that's the exact opposite of everything the West teaches about transformation. No dramatic breakthroughs, no massive action, no revolutionary overnight changes. Just 1%. Every single day. So small you barely notice it happening, until 5 years pass and you're unrecognizable. They call it KAIZEN, and it's about to destroy everything you think you know about self-improvement. Here's the transformation lie you've been sold. Change happens through massive action, through burning the boats, through going all in, through radical commitment that forces you to become someone new overnight. It's complete bullshit. Think about every major change you've tried to make in your life. How many times did you tell yourself, starting Monday, everything changes? How many times did you actually sustain it? The fitness industry makes billions selling you this lie. 30-day transformations, extreme diets, brutal workout programs, all designed around the idea that you need to shock your system into change. And it works for about 3 weeks. Then you crash, you burn out, you return to baseline, and you feel like a failure because you couldn't maintain the intensity. But the intensity was never sustainable. That's the point you're missing. Your brain is designed to resist sudden, dramatic change. It's a survival mechanism. Anything that deviates too far from your normal patterns triggers alarm bells. Your nervous system interprets radical change as danger and fights to bring you back to homeostasis. That's why New Year's resolutions fail at a 92% rate. The bigger the change, the stronger the resistance. You're not failing because you're weak. You're failing because you're trying to force change in a way that biologically cannot work long-term. After World War II, Japan was destroyed, cities leveled, economy shattered, industrial capacity decimated. They needed to rebuild, but they didn't have resources for massive, dramatic reconstruction. So they developed a different philosophy, KAIZEN, continuous improvement, the idea that small, incremental changes, sustained over time, create transformation that massive efforts cannot. 1% better every day. It sounds weak. It sounds like it would take forever. It sounds like something unmotivated people tell themselves to avoid real work. But here's what actually happens. 1% improvement daily means you're 37 times better after 1 year. Not 37%, 37 times. The math is simple. 1.01 to the power of 365 equals 37.8. Conversely, 1% worse every day means you decline to nearly zero. 0.99 to the power of 365 equals 0.03. The direction matters less than the consistency of the increment. Now there is a big problem. The problem with KAIZEN is that it's invisible. When you improve 1%, you can't see it. You can't feel it. There's no dramatic before and after, no rush of accomplishment, no external validation. That's exactly why it works. Because change that's invisible doesn't trigger resistance. Your brain doesn't sound the alarm when you do 1 push-up more than yesterday. It doesn't panic when you read for 10 minutes instead of 5. It doesn't fight back when you wake up 5 minutes earlier. The change is so small, it slips under the radar of your psychological defense systems. But it compounds, and compounding is the most powerful force in human transformation, just like it is in finance. Imagine you want to run a marathon, but you've never run in your life. The Western approach says, start running 5 miles a day, push through the pain, no excuses. You'll last a week before your knees give out or your motivation collapses. The KAIZEN approach says, run to the end of your driveway today. That's it. Tomorrow, maybe to the mailbox. Next week, around the block. In 6 months, you're running 3 miles without even noticing how you got there. In a year, the marathon is not only possible, but inevitable. The change happened so slowly that your identity had time to shift. You didn't force yourself to become a runner. You gradually became someone for whom running is normal. Here's the key insight. Your brain doesn't resist who you're becoming when the change is imperceptible. It only resists when you try to be someone dramatically different overnight. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. That's the KAIZEN trap in reverse. You think 1% is nothing, so you go for 10%, and 10% triggers resistance. So you fail, and you never discover what 1% sustained over a year could have created. In 2010, British cycling was a joke. They'd won a single gold medal in 76 years of Olympic competition. They'd never won the Tour de France. They were so bad that top bike manufacturers refused to sell them equipment, afraid it would hurt their brand. Then, Dave Brailsford became performance director, and he introduced one concept, the aggregation of marginal gains. He believed that if you improved every tiny aspect of cycling by just 1%, the cumulative effect would be massive. So they started looking at everything. They redesigned bike seats for better comfort. They tested different fabrics in wind tunnels to find which was most aerodynamic. They determined the optimal pillow and mattress for sleep quality. They taught riders the best way to wash their hands to avoid infections. They even painted the inside of the truck that transported the bikes white so mechanics could spot any dust that might affect performance. Hundreds of 1% improvements. 5 years later, British cycling dominated the Olympics. 8 years later, British riders won the Tour de France 5 times. They went from the worst to the absolute best, not through one massive change, but through the compounding of tiny improvements. Now think about your own life. What if you improved your morning routine by 1%, your work focus by 1%, your relationships by 1%, your health by 1%? Not dramatic overhauls, not revolutionary changes, just 1%, sustained, daily. In 6 months, you wouldn't recognize your life, but you'd never be able to point to the moment it changed because there was no moment. There was just the accumulation of imperceptible improvements that suddenly became undeniable. The Japanese have a term for this, KAIZEN mindset. Here's how you use KAIZEN starting today. First, pick one area of your life, not 5, 1. The area that, if it improved, would cascade into everything else. Second, identify the smallest possible improvement you could make today, and I mean smallest. So small it feels ridiculous. So small you're embarrassed to call it a goal. Want to read more? 1 page today. Want to get fit? 1 push-up today. Want to build a business? 15 minutes of work today. The size must be laughably small. Third, do that every single day. No exceptions. No, I'll do extra tomorrow to make up for today. Just the 1%, consistently. Fourth, increase by 1% when it feels easy. Not when you feel motivated, when it feels easy. If 1 push-up feels easy for a week, do 2. If 15 minutes feels easy, do 16. The key is that the increase itself must be invisible. The moment it feels like effort, you've increased too much. Fifth, trust the process for 6 months minimum. You won't see results in week 1. You won't see results in month 1. You might not even see results in month 3. But in month 6, you'll look back and won't believe you're the same person. The final truth about KAIZEN, it's not about the result. It's about becoming someone for whom the result is inevitable. When you improve 1% daily for a year, you don't achieve the goal through willpower. You become the person for whom that goal is their baseline. KAIZEN doesn't change what you do. It changes who you are. And once you've changed who you are, what you do follows automatically. The Japanese rebuilt an entire nation this way. What could you build with the same philosophy? If you're ready to stop chasing dramatic transformations and start building real, lasting change, subscribe now. Next week, we're diving into another principle that completely inverts everything you've been taught about success. 1% better starts now. Don't wait for Monday. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Start so small you can't fail. Then let time do the work.